What's up, everyone? I'm Graham INSCOE, and today we're here to break down Norixius Rowan, rogue Dragonborn Justicar, and our resident Executioner Paladin. If you haven't yet heard Rowan's story, check out the link in the description to get yourself properly caught up to speed. While you're down there, you'll find links to all of Rowan's free downloadable character sheets, as well as a link to the Oath of the Executioner Paladin subclass.
Okay, hold up. Let's address the Loxodon in the room. No? Cheesy? Yeah, okay, never mind. The Oath of the Executioner is not an officially published subclass. We designed Norixius Rowan using a homebrewed Paladin subclass by Johnny Stanton. He's a super talented dungeon master and a former and hopefully future fullback for the Cleveland Browns. Johnny Stanton has taken big strides in making Dungeons & Dragons more inclusive and welcoming for every community, which is something that we're trying to do as well. If you want to see what Johnny's up to, you can give him a follow on Twitter or go check out his website at stantonthefourth.com. Alright, back to the breakdown.
Utilizing homebrew content can be a gamble, but in the Oath of the Executioner, we found a compelling theme backed by strong but not overpowered mechanics and features. Paladins trained to be stoic instruments of justice, to be the hand of a higher cause without demonstrating passion or cruelty. In this concept and these mechanics, our character came to life almost without effort, and we highly encourage DMs to allow this subclass at their tables. But for the players and DMs that do maintain strict no homebrew philosophies, we'll be releasing an alternate build for Rowan on our Patreon utilizing the Oath of Vengeance subclass. Now, as to Rowan himself, and how he became the towering warrior on the run that we meet in his backstory. Our Dragonborn Paladin is truly a child of the city he was raised in, and would have been a child of the streets were it not for the intervention of a minor priestess of a trickster god, taking in the small amethyst Dragonborn and doing her best to steer him onto a safe and secure path. In a city known for its brutal and unwavering justice, young Norixius Rowan was able to flourish and develop a noble, if naive, sense of justice, honing his skills as a warrior and endearing himself to the city's residents, the affluent and the downtrodden alike. When he finally gains access to the elitist Justicars, he is optimistic about the chance to make a difference for the better, protecting the city and the people he loves, only to have his worldview shattered, forced to retaliate against injustice the only way he knows how, violently and decisively. How Rowan reacts and adjusts to the horrors he's witnessed and his status as a local outlaw is up to the individual player. But however Rowan is played, his love of the common folk and his recent but virulent distrust of authority will almost certainly shine through in his gameplay, as will his quest for justice. Whether the chief executioner acted of his own initiative or was manipulated into his violent judgment, the corruption and cruelty of the Justicars clearly runs deep, and Rowan is determined to one day return and root out the malicious actors within his beloved city. Now, let's take a good look at Master Norixius' character sheet. In past how-to videos, I've mentioned that it's somewhat difficult to pull off a proper spellsword character in 5th edition, but I was frankly doing Paladins a disservice in saying so. Paladins occupy a specific, melee-focused niche, but they are powerful frontline warriors who amplify their durability and damage with divine magic, while maintaining the ability to heal and restore allies, and direct foes away from more fragile teammates. This comes at a bit of a cost, though. To maximize the effectiveness of a paladin, one has to invest at least moderately in 3 different ability scores, which does not leave many points available for utility or flavor-focused ability scores. A paladin has to invest in strength to maximize their melee damage and wear higher tier armor, but armor class will only carry a character so far. And so constitution is essential to ensure a paladin has enough health to weather area of effect damage and sustained fights. And finally, as half-casters, paladins rely on charisma as their spellcasting ability. And while they very rarely have to rely on their spell save DC or spell attack modifier, at mid to late levels, the Paladin's aura of protection provides an incredible boost to the Paladin themselves and their allies, and this feature scales directly off of charisma. With all of these factors in mind, we placed our lineage-provided ability score increases into strength and charisma, and then pushed them both as high as possible to scores of 16 and a +3 modifier. There are only enough points left to get our constitution to a +2 modifier, so we're going to avoid a useless odd score and set that at a 14. With the Paladin's D10 hit die, high armor class, and restorative abilities, this should provide Rowan with enough durability to thrive in the first couple tiers of gameplay. This then leaves us with points for either 2 neutral stats and a negative ability score, or 1 positive and 2 negative modifiers. Opting for the latter, Rowan's wisdom stat becomes a 12 or a +1, while dexterity and intelligence are both set at scores of 8 and modifiers of -1. It may well hurt having a negative modifier on dexterity and intelligence saving throws, but it hurts a lot less than failing a wisdom save that leads to Rowan attacking his party members or being removed from the fight. And eventually, his abilities as a paladin will overcome this deficit anyway. We built Rowan using the Dragonborn statistics featured in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and as an Amethyst Dragonborn, Norixius Rowan falls under the Gem Dragonborn subcategory. As such, Rowan gains the ability to speak telepathically to a creature within 30 feet of him, although this communication is only one way. Additionally, as an Amethyst Dragonborn, Rowan gains a nigh unheard of resistance to force damage via Draconic Resistance, and can replace one of his attacks on a given turn with a breath weapon attack, dealing force damage in a cone, assuming a failed dex save on the part of his targets. Paladins have proficiency in Wisdom and Charisma saving throws, and between the Paladin class and the City Watch background, Rowan has proficiency in the Athletics, Intimidation, Insight, and Persuasion skills. Our shining purple paragon is additionally fluent in Common, Draconic, Dwarvish, and Gnomish, with no tool proficiencies beyond the armaments of his violent trade. Rowan is proficient with all simple and martial weapons, armors of all weights, and shields, and he takes full advantage of these proficiencies. Rowan utilizes a classic sword and board paladin build, sacrificing stealth capabilities to wear the strongest heavy armor available, while utilizing his shield and longsword to maximize his armor class and maintain decent base melee damage. Rowan is always going to want to be right up in the thick of things in combat, and his kit is tailored around maximizing his survivability and damage output while still being a bolstering force for his allies. With starting proficiencies and general details out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty and check out Rowan's character sheet level by level. In addition to those early features we've already mentioned, Paladins start the game with 2 additional level 1 features, Divine Sense and Lay on Hands. The former feature allows Rowan to detect the presence of celestials, fiends, and undead within 60 feet of him a few times per day. Lay on Hands allots Rowan a small pool of healing, 5 points per paladin level, which he can dispense to allies with an action. Alternatively, Rowan can spend 5 points of Lay on Hands to remove 1 disease or poison from a given target. Level 2 is a doozy for Rowan. Here, Paladins pick up a fighting style, the spellcasting feature, and most importantly, the Divine Smite feature. For a fighting style, we've selected Dueling to add a bit of extra damage to Rowan's one-handed melee attacks. Spellcasting is something we'll dive further into in a bit. Suffice it to say that Paladins prepare their spells daily in the manner of clerics or druids, and that you will almost certainly use your spell slots for a different feature than spellcasting anyway. And that brings us to Divine Smite. This feature single-handedly enables Paladins to achieve the incredible Nova damage that they are so known for. By burning a spell slot, the Paladin may empower a melee weapon attack with Divine Power, dealing extra d8s of radiant damage that scale up depending on the level of the spell slot burned. Rowan can choose to use this feature after the player learns whether an attack hits or misses, which means that the player cannot be forced into wasting a spell slot on a missed smite. Moreover, smites have their damage dice doubled on a critical hit, which amplifies Rowan's damage potential immensely, especially given that both Executioner and Vengeance Paladins gain access to the Hold Person spell, allowing potential auto-crits on humanoid foes. We're not quite there yet though. At level 3, Paladins cement themselves as an exceptionally front-loaded class, picking up another 2 features as well as their Oath, or subclass. All Paladins pick up Divine Health here, which renders them completely immune to all disease. Paladins also gain a use of Channel Divinity here, the specific effects of which vary from Oath to Oath. Executioner Paladins gain access to On Your Knees, which forces a strength save from all enemies within 30 feet of Rowan on a bonus action, attempting to knock those enemies prone. Alternatively, as an action, Rowan can utilize the Acceptance of Fate Channel Divinity, a specialized grapple attempt that, when successful, expands Rowan's critical hit range against the target and adds extra radiant damage to all of his melee attacks against the same. Finally, at level 3, we have the optional feature Harness Divine Power, which allows Rowan to burn his Channel Divinity to regain a spell slot of no higher level than half his proficiency bonus, assuming one's DM allows the Tasha's optional class features. 4th level is the same for Paladins as it is for any other class. With our ability score increase, we're bumping Rowan's Constitution up to 16, giving him a little more bulk to absorb damage with. At level 5, our Amethyst Outlaw gains access to the oh-so-critical extra attack feature, bringing him up to 2 attacks per attack action, and potentially 2 attempts to smite per turn. Also at 5th level, the Gem Dragonborn feature Gem Flight becomes available to Rowan. Once per long rest, Rowan can now use a bonus action to manifest Spectral Wings and give himself a fly speed equal to his walking speed, greatly increasing his mobility. And then at level 6, Rowan picks up a feature we alluded to earlier. Aura of Protection adds Rowan's Charisma modifier to all of his saving throws, as well as those of allies within 10 feet of him. This feature is wildly powerful. It takes Rowan's 2 negative saves up to +2 modifiers, and takes his average or good saving throws and boosts them up to incredibly high numbers. Level 7 is a subclass feature for our dear Dragonborn, and the Oath of the Executioner grants Rowan a 2nd aura in the Aura of Subjugation. This feature is relatively straightforward. Rowan and all friendly creatures within 10 feet of him gain advantage on all athletics checks involved in a shove or grapple. Important to note here, this aura grants advantage to Rowan while he's attempting the grapple to initiate his Acceptance of Fate Channel Divinity option. Level 8 is another ASI, and this time we're pushing Rowan's strength to 18 and a +4 modifier to give him a slightly better chance to connect with his sword swings, and thus a greater chance to smite. Level 9 is mostly a dead level for Rowan, although he does pick up a couple of 3rd level spell slots, the better to smite people with. And finally at level 10, Rowan picks up one final aura feature. With the Aura of Courage, Rowan and allies within 10 feet of him are rendered immune to being frightened. And with the level by level breakdown out of the way, you probably know what time it is. On the off chance you don't, we'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Skellcasting. As previously mentioned, Paladins are prepared spellcasters, meaning they have access to their full spell list but must choose to prepare a certain amount of spells from their list at the end of each long rest, a number equal to Rowan's Charisma modifier plus half his Paladin level. Once a Paladin selects their oath, they also gain access to subclass-specific spells, which are always prepared and do not count against the number of spells that Rowan himself prepares daily. And finally, as we previously mentioned, in the average adventuring day, Rowan is going to usually want to save most of his spell slots for Divine Smites. As such, we're going to merely emphasize some do's and don'ts in Rowan's spell list rather than give you all hard and fast choices for his spell selection. When his spellcasting kicks in at level 2, Rowan can prepare 4 first level spells, and that's frankly more than he needs. Bless is an excellent buff Rowan can apply to himself and some of his allies. Detect Magic is good utility, but is usually better left to casters with more spell slots than Rowan has. And Shield of Faith is a small magical boost to armor class Rowan can utilize on himself or an ally. Cure Wounds is a viable selection if Rowan's party lacks a dedicated healer, and both Command and Compelled Duel have limited usage, but will quickly be outclassed by some of Rowan's Paladin features. Also available starting at level 2 are 3 of the Smite spells, and though they offer decent boosts to damage, their reliance on concentration, coupled with Rowan's limited spell slots and access to Divine Smite, mean that the Smite spells are a trap selection more often than not. Rowan won't get access to second level spells until Paladin level 5, but before that he starts accumulating his subclass specific spells. At PC level 3, the Oath of the Executioner automatically adds Hunter's Mark and Cause Fear to Rowan's spell list. Cause Fear is perhaps not the most efficient use of Rowan's concentration, but Hunter's Mark will allow him to add a small amount of damage to his attacks against the target and allow him to keep track of a foe fond of vanishing, fleeing, or turning invisible. From the Paladin list starting at level 5, the most notable spell available to Rowan becomes Find Steed, a Paladin exclusive spell that allows Rowan to conjure a supernatural warhorse or similar steed to utilize in and out of battle. Find Steed is awesome, but the rules for mounted combat in 5th edition are somewhat ambiguously worded and are a long-standing source of contention between various players and DMs. Assuming that your DM runs mounted combat as written, your best bet is to treat your summoned steed as a controlled mount whenever you are astride it. It limits the actions of the steed, but allows you to utilize the steed's movement immediately prior to taking your own turn, and the superior positioning and mobility more than makes up for losing access to the steed's potential trample attack. Apart from Find Steed, other notable second level Paladin spells include Lesser Restoration to cure conditions not covered by Lay on Hands, Prayer of Healing to provide significant out of combat healing for Rowan and his party, and Warding Bond, which allows Rowan to intercept some damage for an ally for the duration of his concentration. The real kicker, though, comes from Rowan's Oath spells. Access to Hold Person means that Rowan can guarantee himself automatic critical hits against humanoid targets. And as most paladins are incapable of setting this spell up for themselves, it allows Rowan to be self-reliant for Nova damage in a way that most paladins just aren't. This is certainly not a foolproof strategy, but the carnage Rowan can cause on a successful Hold Person cannot be overstated, especially when he couples it with Acceptance of Fate. Finally, at PC level 9, Rowan gains access to 3rd level spells. Revivify is an essential pick here if your party lacks a cleric or druid, and Spirit Shroud will add a small amount of damage and crowd control to Rowan, assuming he isn't facing an enemy he can hold person. Rowan will always have Speak with Dead and Summon Undead prepared thanks to his Oath, but the former is an out-of-combat situational ability, and the latter is a niche use of his spell slots that will usually provide subpar damage and utility compared to other concentration options available. Truly, one is better off saving Rowan's 3rd level spell slots for a pair of monstrous smites, barring an emergency amongst the party. That mostly does it for Norixius Rowan, Executioner Paladin, and Justicar in Exile. We hope that this video helped you understand Rowan and how his personality and background feed into his playstyle. That of a tanky frontliner with all of a paladin's support capabilities, with a special penchant for locking down and destroying individual foes. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support our channel and gain access to some other fun DnD Backstory content, you can find the link to our Patreon in the description. To find all of our other characters and how-to videos, head over to the channel by clicking DnD Backstory below. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, or you'd like to see us create a certain type of character, be sure to get at us in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.
Get at us.
Did I not say that?
Get at us.
Get at us, boy!
Get at us.